Exactly.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
All right. Do a little mini clap. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Editing the Academy. Darryl's Top 20, number 15. I'm Darryl.
I'm Laura.
All right. My number 15 this time, I'm probably not going to be as eloquent about this one as some of the others because it's a very simple reason why I like this movie so much.
Okay.
I have a lot to say and to talk about, but the justification part, which I know you hate that part, but...
I hate the term justification.
I know.
You like movies or you don't like movies?
I can't think of another way to describe it, but whatever.
Tell me why you like it.
So this is The Legend of 1900. It's a 1998 film directed by Giuseppe Tornatore. He's probably most known, you might remember, for Cinema Paradiso. Adapted from Alessandro Barocco's philosophical fable about modernity, and it stars Tim Roth, Pruitt Taylor Vince, and Melanie Ferry. It won a ton of international film awards, most for score, soundtrack, and cinematography. Was not nominated or did not win anything in America. Just want to point this out. The title card says it's a fable by Giuseppe. And indeed,
I think it's Giuseppe.
Giuseppe, sorry. And indeed, to me, this is absolutely a fable. It's not necessarily a film, although of course it's a film, but to me this is a fable. The central moral of this one is basically modernity. It's set in 1900 and then goes forward, so it's about living in the then quote-unquote modern world and what that is. This is also a film primarily for me about identity, what it is to be seen, to be heard, to be what it is to be you. And for me, the reason I love this film so much is just the story itself. The directing is phenomenal. I think most of the actors in this live up to what they should be. There's occasionally a weak performance, but everybody just is top-notch. So none of the normal things that I would be attracted to for a film or be detracted from in a film really apply for me in this. It's just all about the story. I just love this story so much.
Okay.
And I discovered this when I was going through my Tim Roth phase, where I watched every film that Tim Roth had ever been in, because I just think he's probably one of the more underrated actors that exist. I love that man so much. I never watched Lie to Me, the TV series, though, because
I don't think I have either, yeah.
It was formulaic, and I just didn't want to watch him do formulaic stuff, but I just love this movie. This is a story of essentially one man, but again, it's a story more about identity and also story. The timeline for this is, and it took me, I think, 2 or 3 watches to really get it nailed down. There's 3 separate timelines that are happening in this movie. There's the forward progression of Tim Roth's character, 1900, as we see his life develop. There's the story that's being told, the overarching story of the film itself, where the guy's giving the trumpet and he's telling the story of 1900. And then there's the minor timeline story of him then going to try and find 1900. That can get confusing for some people because you can get a little lost sometimes.
I didn't think there was a separation between 2 and 3. I thought it was all, he sold the trumpet, and that was the same time frame that he was trying to find him on the ship.
I think it's a slightly different timeline. Because of the way, and I was really paying attention this time watching it through, because I remembered, I think there's 3 timelines. And I could be proven 100% wrong, but I really do believe that it's 3 different timelines that are woven in. One of my favorite lines is at the very, very end, where the shopkeeper, we know him from Game of Thrones, he basically just gives him back the trumpet, and he's like, a good story is worth more than any old trumpet.
I love that line. It was a great line.
It was perfect to just kind of end that thing on. Okay, that's how I'm going to start.
Okay. I've not seen this movie before.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of this movie before.
Most people haven't.
But I did love Cinema Paradiso. And so I did, I enjoyed the movie. I thought, first, I'm with you on Tim Roth. His face, his eyes, he says so much without saying anything.
Yes.
It's funny that you just say the story captured you, because I would have assumed that it was more because of the music.
Well, that's a big part of it, sure.
You know, such a person where music means so much, so I thought that the music was a big piece of it. And again, just like, it was so whimsical. You know, there were so many scenes of him like playing the piano and it rolling through the ship, and that was very, very cool. And my favorite scene was when he was using music to describe the people in
Yes.
the room.
Yeah.
So he was doing like a little bit of, like his music, and then you would see a very stern person music, you'd see a very happy person. So, that's not exactly it, but I really loved the way that
Yeah,
that
I
was
was going to
done.
bring that up as well.
He and his friend and their relationship and both of their performances were wonderful. So I thought that was fantastic too. But yeah, I liked it, and and tell me if you're going to get to this too, but I thought the question of not just, kind of identity, but also choices.
Mhm.
To me, that was the big piece of, how many choices do you have? How many choices do you want? That to me was what it was saying. Is sometimes if you have too many choices, you're just stuck and you can't make them.
Yeah, and I think that's part of 1900's dilemma is
Yes.
that at any point in time, he knows that he can leave the ship,
Yep.
but he never does. He tries it one time and then realizes that there's just something in him that can't, which then becomes the crux for the ending, where
Yes.
he won't, even though the ship is about to be blown up, he won't leave because
He's part of the ship.
yes, a big portion of his identity is that ship. He's known nothing else his entire life. He's had a very good, fulfilling, kind of rich life, like
Yeah.
one I would be envious of. That seemed pretty cool. But that is such a big part that he can't go off and do something else. This is
Right.
all the man knows.
It is, but again, just that piece about, all of the questions in the world, all of the options
Yes.
in the world, and how can you live that way? There's no end.
Yes.
And for him, he had to see an ending.
Yep. When you're talking about when he's looking out and he's talking to his friend and he sees the city and he starts talking about
No,
those
it's when he's
streets.
making the decision, when he's making the decision not to leave the ship,
Oh,
when his
oh,
friend
yeah,
finds
at
him
the
at the
very
end,
end, yeah.
at the very, very end, yeah.
There's a scene that supports that early on when he's looking
Mhm.
out at the city and he's talking to his friends about how many streets there are and just the
Yes,
idea and
yes.
concept of what a street actually is.
Yeah, and he refers back to that, yeah.
So many
Agreed.
little things like that. One one of the things I think that it handles very well and doesn't do it over the top, but this is also kind of a story about symbols. Very early on, they established that there's always one on every voyage that sees her first, and then because they're all the immigrants coming to America, and they see the Statue of Liberty, which is a representation, obviously, of America. And it's not like they mention it; you see it once.
Yes.
It keeps coming back,
Yeah.
which is good. Now I lost my place. It's travel also as freedom. So many people in the movie talk about their ability to travel and the freedom that gives them as they're going back and forth between New York and London, back and forth between New York and London. So that becomes kind of a recurring motif throughout, something that he struggles with. Like, would he be free if he leaves, or is he free when he stays? Like, I don't think he ever feels trapped. But the ship is such a big part of him that it's the inability to leave because of that, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think it's interesting too that the ship is kind of a lack of class distinction, because you do have a full ship of people going to America and immigrants and what seem to be the poorer of the Europeans coming across, and then he's in the ballroom with people dressed to the nines, and just there's no socioeconomic differences in people who are all trying to get the same thing.
Yeah, this is not Titanic.
Yeah, well, it's not, but it is, like you could have rich people wanting something that poor people just want this. Everybody seems to want the same thing.
Yep. Another theme in this one is music, which is so central to the plot. But music is more than just simple entertainment for
Yes.
people. Music is a challenge. Music is entertainment. It's also a relief. It's also income. Like, music is not just simply people coming to watch somebody play piano in this movie. It takes on multiple meanings and multiple levels, which that I thought was handled beautifully as well. One of the more interesting ones, and I only really kind of picked up on this the second or third watch, because I've seen this 14, 15 times now.
Wow.
Is physical recording
Yep.
as identity.
Yes.
Because nobody knows who this man is. The rumors are out there, and in fact there's a battle with Jelly Roll Morton because of those rumors, but nobody knows who this is. The only way they do is from this one recording that was done, which then ends up getting broken, but becoming pivotal to why the story is being told. Because the character says, "Where did you hear that? That's something that should never have existed." So identity becomes
Right.
quite physical.
And 1900 did not want that to leave the ship
Yep.
because it was his identity. And Max, who always wanted him to leave the ship, is the one who actually facilitated it.
Yep.
Interesting. Can you go to the jelly roll, kind of that whole piece? Because I found that fascinating and
Yeah.
really interesting, and I wanted
So
to take on it.
you know who Jelly Roll
Yeah.
Morton is? Okay. So he's quite often attributed to be the inventor of jazz.
Yes.
So in the context of the movie, everybody that sees 1900 play becomes fascinated. So the word spreads both in London and New York that there is this amazing piano player. And then Jelly Roll hears that and comes on board specifically to see him and then challenge him.
Right.
And that scene is awesome.
It's really, really good.
Again, kind of like with Mozart, you have this moment when the battle is actually happening where he doesn't really give it his all the first time. He doesn't really understand necessarily what this challenge is or means. It's only his friend who on the third try basically puts it in his head like, no, you need to win this thing. This is not just fun.
Right.
So the first one, he's just kind of playing around. It's no big deal. Jelly Roll gets in, does his thing, he's amazing. The second one, he just goes and repeats exactly note for note what Jelly Roll just did, showing that he is incredibly brilliant. And then the third one, he just lets it go.
Right.
And then at the end, I love the fact that because he's doing, just going at it super hard, super fast. And then he just takes the cigarette, puts it on, and the cigarette lights, and he goes and puts it, it is a polite fuck you. It is not an overt one. It is super polite.
Yes.
But he's like, I won. Like, they asked me to win. I won.
Well, and also so when they were doing the different kind of like back-to-back piano pieces, he just wanted music. He just wanted like, oh, you're a great musician, I'm a great musician. Let's play our music to each other, and this is just going to be fun. And this is going to be sharing our knowledge and sharing our musical talents with one another. Until Jelly Roll says something disparaging to him, and then he's like, oh, that's the way you're going to play it? Okay, I will beat you at that game.
Yep.
Yeah.
That scene is so incredibly well done. There are so many
hands, the multitudes of hands on the keys is specifically to me what I
There's
loved
so
it.
many just beautiful moments. That's one of them. You mentioned also when the ship is at high seas rolling through and they take the brakes off and they go careening through. It is just it's beautifully shot. It's just a fun moment. You kind of swell a little bit. You're like, you almost feel like you're with them on the piano going through. It's just so incredibly well done.
And even leading up to that, when his friend who is new to the ship is careening from, basically just bouncing off walls back and forth as the ship is moving, and 1900 just walks plainly through the room because this is his home, and this is his life, and walking on the seas is just normal.
Yeah. And the attention to detail in that scene, when you have the hallway full of shoes that are going back and forth during that, that's just something a good director knows how to do to help reinforce a moment.
Yes.
And there are tons of those sprinkled throughout this movie. At the end, though, this movie for me is just such an amazing story. Everything is icing on the cake after the story.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it would not probably resonate with me if it wasn't as acted as well, if it was not directed as well. But it's the story that hooks me back every single time.
What about the girl? So what is her role in the movie in 1900's life? That's the only thing I think it was a little underdeveloped.
He had a crush in the beginning, but then she leaves.
Right.
And he is not going to. I think because of that relationship is when he gets up enough gumption to try to leave, then realizes he can't and he stays. So
she was the brightest, shiniest lure to get him off.
Correct.
Of anything. That's just the role that she played.
Yep. It was not supposed to be, a massive love affair or anything like that. He definitely was established. He did have the crush, and this is why he was going through this. But again, yes, her role in the movie is to be a lure for him to get off, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I have. I just love this story so much, and I come back to it when I want to see the story, not to go back and watch the visuals or anything like that. I could pop it back on, I want to see that story again.
Yep, and I actually really enjoyed the visuals and the acting really well. So I had not heard of it, and I really enjoyed it.
Good recommendation?
Good recommendation, yes.
Excellent. So hear that from her.
Great recommendation. Go see this movie. I hadn't seen it before. All right. Bye-bye.